Again, thank you everybody for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Welcome. We're here with an exciting guest today. We have with us Kip Fanta, who is a master of business relationship management. I'm going to let him tell you briefly about himself, and we're not going to try to bore you with too much ancillary such as we're going to try to make this done and quick in 30 minutes, provide a lot of value to you. And with that, I'm going to introduce Mr. Kip Fanta, and
John,
he's going to tell you a little bit about himself.
thank you, John. Great to be with you, and really appreciate everyone that's joining and going to be watching this. Yeah, Kip Fanta. So 32 years of experience. A lot of that time, about 25 at Procter & Gamble. A lot of IT, shared service roles. A lot of BRM experience at that point. So I just love that whole space. And the last 7 years, just having lots of fun with organizations on how they think about business relationship management. And then recently also working with SFIA. SFIA is an organization where we're helping people think about service management, transformation, operations, those kind of things. So, but we're excited. I'm excited to be here, John, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, quick background, Kip and I met at a BRM Connect conference back in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, Banff, Canada. So I've also been a member of this BRM space and have always had a strong passion for the people side of technology and digital space. Started out at computer tech here in Pittsburgh, learning COBOL and C++, and decided I liked people more than I liked coding. But to dive right in here, Kip, the core of this conversation really relates to this first question here, which is we're going to talk about skills management. And I'd like you to kind of share your thoughts on why skills management should be at the core of an overall BRM or IT value strategy.
Yeah, well, I mean, where to begin? There's so much here. But let's start talking right away about the importance of our people. You know, I think a lot of organizations are looking at people as, well, I've got them, I need to kind of manage them, they're expensive, but they're going to help me get the job done, right? And what we like to talk about in the BRM community and the BRM Institute is kind of this relationship-centered organization. That's very different. It's really a big focus on your people, because as we can build strong relationships, ultimately partnerships, and we think about then the energy and the innovation that's going to come with that great collaboration, then watch out in terms of the value that can be built, that business value. So with this focus on the people, which is great, and I hope a lot of people do that, it's so important to understand our people in terms of what skills they have, what things they want to develop and acquire, and then how all of that beautifully fits together in the relationships that they're building. And then again, the value can come. And I think also when we think about kind of BRM and what we're doing to drive this value, we talk about the purpose. It's great to have the organizational purpose in mind. And if everyone can kind of rally around the organizational purpose, then watch out. But what gets exciting is when leaders are helping other leaders and employees really understand their personal purpose and where that fits to what they're doing. You know, to see the sparkle in their eye in terms of the activities, the skills, everything they're bringing personally to this greater organizational purpose. So I think it's so important to get down to the people one by one. And we talk about with Initiate BRM Institute, you know, it even starts with the mindset, but we've got to then understand and help them understand the skills. We have to do a better job, and we'll talk about this, John, right, in terms of understanding what skills we need. But you start to marry those things up, and it's almost by default, the value will come. Because of that great collaboration, we've identified the people, they're bringing their best, and it's just amazing to see that high thriving organization. So that's what needs to happen. It's not happening enough. And I think sometimes it just starts really with looking at the people.
I think it really goes back to what we had put into the invitation to this webinar of most companies are spending millions or billions of dollars on the technology side, and the percentage of investment in the people and the skills to support that technology is incredibly lacking.
Yeah.
And if we can get the people to buy in, to the like you said, the organizational purpose, along with, hey, I know where I'm a help desk analyst today, but here's my development plan. I'm going to be CIO of Ford Motor Company in 10 years, right?
Yeah.
That is a reason to want to wake up in the morning and come to work, right?
Yeah, and again, we're talking not management, we're talking leadership is required here. And I really see a lot of leaders thinking about this more and appropriately thinking about it more, and particularly in today's world where I think a lot more of the employees are looking for this. So that's why I think it's very important.
For sure. So, SFIA, other than being one of the most common girl names here in the United States, had a pretty big impact internationally. And I'd love for you to share with the group here why you feel it creates that consistency for putting, what really matters to me and BRM and ITIL and governance and everything that we do touch is putting the right people with the right skills on the right projects.
Yeah, and I'm on my journey. I'm really enjoying getting more into SFIA than I used to be years ago. And I remember reading an article Jeremy Byrne from the BRM community wrote in 2015. And in the BRM community wrote it saying, hey, SFIA's out there already really strong, but they've added a category on relationships and engagement. So it's even more to look at and how SFIA maps into what BRM community was looking at. So it's this wonderful framework that really helps you think about the skills that are required. And it's going to help you think about how do we build those job descriptions, the profiles, recruitment, development, helping your employees kind of assess themselves. So again, I'm really enjoying it. And since 2015, of course, here we are with SFIA 8. And again, as an employee, what a great way to equip yourself and empower yourself to own my destiny, right? I'm going to feel in charge of what do I have, what do I want to get, and how do I define that? What are all the things that I should understand? So it's great for the employee. And what's very exciting is for the employer, who really has that wonderful visibility then to their supply. But let's not talk about supply. Talk about the talent that's bringing to bear to drive that value. And it's not just for the one-on-one managers. Think of the enterprise-wide visibility that this can offer. So SFIA I like for so many reasons. What I also am beginning to understand better is there's a lot of organizations that spend time on some of this space, the competency work, the skill work, and it's not necessarily maybe as robust or strong. And of course, it's not going to be consistent within maybe the IT industry per se. So I like this in a way of, hey, let's focus from an enterprise perspective on how to leverage it and focus on our people. And wow, let's take some of this best practice, best framework, people that are continue to keep it up to date and refine it. Let's use that in a very strong and consistent way. And again, I really like it's so much, it's very simple, but it's so profound because it's going to help you understand what skills do we have, what skills do we need, and then you kind of analyze that gap and you come up with the right action against that. And the more I learn about SFIA, one of the things to think about, we're not talking SFIA equals technologies. No, this is not about technologies. These are all these skills, but what I like is there's 7 levels of development here within all of these skills, because you guys know, we all know this. I'm giving training this week, right? Yes, certification. It's not, I am now developed. I've got my certification, I'm ready to go. It's a part of development. So SFIA takes into account, and just like the BRM Institute initially we talk, it's I got the knowledge and understanding, but now I need to actually demonstrate. I'm now practicing using these skills. And so I love how it talks about knowledge, skills, competency, competence. So it's very simple yet very deep in the way you can think about it. And even in those 7 levels, there's elements of these kind of generic attributes in terms of like business skills, influence, autonomy, complexity. So it's simple to use and leverage, but it's deep, and it's not just so simple of, okay, it's just one level, one technology. It's way more than that. And again, I like it because it's going to keep changing, John. I mean, it's not like we're done with SFIA. I think 8 is probably where we're going to stop. we're done.
Right.
No, it's going to evolve all the time. So I like keeping up to date with it. I'm on my journey to learn about it more and how it fits in some other work that I'm doing. But that's a little bit of SFIA from my perspective as I get more into it.
Sure. And the framework has been around for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And has been contributed to by some of the largest governments, corporate entities in the world, including some different divisions within the U.S. federal space. And what we're starting to see is multiple countries are starting to standardize upon the SFIA framework for human capital development for the people who live there.
Yeah.
Right? They're coming up with training programs. Let's try to, one of the things that excites me about this is as we work with the refugee crisis, with the war going on in Ukraine, is I'm working with a country that is going to use a SFIA assessment to help prioritize the people they want to bring into their country. Right? I mean, this has some real world impact. But you had mentioned, the industry standard. A lot of what I see, even in internal departments, a digital forensics specialist level 3 in one department can be substantially different than what somebody else is calling a cybersecurity engineer in their department. And we'll talk a little bit about that in the funny stories as we end up here. So we'll keep going.
Yeah, I think just to your point, it's not skills framework for IT, right? This is really clearly, if I'm an IT professional, and clearly there's so much benefit and value, but we're really talking about anyone can leverage this as we think about the information age, right? As we think about digital technology, it's here to stay. So how can anyone really leverage this in their own development, no matter what role, no matter what function? So I think that's also very important. Again, I'm learning and thinking about that and implications there. Yeah.
And the other cool part when you start assessing your folks is you find the hidden talent.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Mary teaches Sunday school and she's a coder. You didn't know she could get in front of a classroom and teach them how to do something.
That's right.
So when you really start to have a true skills inventory, because most skills inventories in the corporate world are vendor specific. They're Microsoft shop, they're a Cisco shop, or, we have a bunch of XYLMNOPs after our names. And that can, like you said, that could be knowledge. That some of them, like the Project Management Institute, if you're a PMP, you have to demonstrate that you have competence. And the word that finishes out is actually complete skill proficiency. So a level 7 skill proficient person. And how much easier does that make it for hiring and moving people, upskilling, reskilling? Anyways, I'm a SFIA evangelist, if you can't tell. This thing's pretty game changing in my humble opinion. So next thing, how do you feel, turning a conversation and, you're a BRM, you walk into a meeting, having a real conversation about the people and the skills and the competencies can really elevate the conversations that they're having?
Yeah, and I'll go back when I was living every day as a BRM at Procter & Gamble. And we want to have the confidence as we go into any meeting about how we can engage with the business, right? We'll talk about the business, we're all business, but how we engage with them on the what's possible. If we want to be strategic partners, which we talk a lot about in the BRM community, we ultimately want to be co-creating the strategy. We want to be way upstream in the decision cycle, right? And so it's important that as we look to get in those conversations, we know what we can bring. We know what we can offer. So if someone said to me, hey, Kip, you know what, we're looking for some help in learning development or data modeling, and if I go, good question, I don't know, and how about this, Kip? Well, do you know anything about that, Kip? I don't know. Now, let me tell you, when I was able, as I matured in my own understanding, and I work and build all these relationships back in my family, and I'll talk an IT example here, some of the biggest ways that I provided value sometimes was someone would ask me a question. I was able to call and kind of talk this topic maybe to level 2, right, John? And then I was able to say to this person, and by the way, we actually have an expert. And they would sometimes, Kip, you guys, some, mean, they were like amazed that I was able to make connections, bring to bear some of the most skilled, qualified people in the different areas. Now, I wish it was easier at times that I could have found them and known who they were, but the more I was able to, and as I got more mature and moved in the company, I was able to understand all of our capability, right? But just think if everyone in the family knew what everyone was able to do, and we're making these connections, the biggest things we want to do is drive value. And that doesn't mean Kip needs to be at level 7 on everything. Oh boy, no, 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 no. The biggest things are about making these connections and understanding what we have, and then wow, the business is not like, and I need it from you, Kip. No, they want to see the value. They want to see who can help. And then now I feel very confident on this convergence between business and IT because I know how to make these connections to all the great stuff that's back here in the family and that visibility and understanding. So within IT, we need to understand what skills do we have that might be of value. The other thing is, what skills are we developing that actually no one even cares about anymore? You know, there's so many interesting things that you can think about here. John, I'm in this training this week, and I was talking to someone just yesterday. And there's something I think a lot of organizations need to be careful of. And she captured it beautifully as she observed organizations and thinking about things. The way she said it was, I see many times that we're designing our organization around the skills we have versus the skills we need. Just think of the implications that, okay, you know what, Kip, you kind of know how to do that. Let's put you there. I know you read a book about it, but we need that area. So thanks for covering that area for me. Okay, we need you over here. Okay, we've got 100 people, and we've got 100 people to work with here. It's like a shell game. We're trying to cover what. Remember, this idea is, where's the gaps? And when you understand the gaps, then you have a decision. Maybe I train Kip up. Maybe I recruit. Maybe I source. We don't want to be reactive and manage the demand by our current supply. It is what it is. You know, no. So I loved how she coined it in terms of, I see organizations almost moving people, structuring it on our current skill set versus, wait a second, we got to get ahead of this. What skills do we need to show up as a business partner, as a true collaborator with the business? So I want to feel more confident as an IT leader. I want to feel more confident as we're engaging. And I think some of this visibility and way to bring it to life is so key. And I liked how she talked about that because I think that is a watch out. All right, it is. We got these people. We'll do the best we can. Wait a second. Why are we doing the best we can? We have some choices here. And by the way, we're not even sure what we have. That's generally where I think a lot of people are. And that's the watch out.
Yeah, and even for organizations that have kind of made that move to agile, Scrum, more of an approach, walking into that meeting today with a skills inventory of all of the available resources versus, all right, you're our graphic designer, you're our marketing analyst, you're our coder, you're our relationship manager. I would challenge anybody on this call to say, if somebody came to me and said, what is our skills inventory, whether you focus on the digital side, which is obviously where SFIA plays, but the majority of organizations, particularly in the Americas, it's a huge risk, in my opinion.
There's significant opportunities for sure. And again, I think organizations are going to be realizing that more and more because the people are almost, more overtly requiring this and overtly asking for this. And so I think organizations and those that have strong HR leadership with IT, that's great. But let's not wait around. We can all kind of take some action here. Even if you don't have like this HR group that wants to work with you on the next competency skill model, there's a lot of things we can start to do even within our own little team, to start. So
yeah, and the SFIA assessments are free. So yeah. I mean, if you're on a small BRM team and want to send 10 or 20 people through an assessment just to see what it's all about, that's all free. So let's keep moving here. So we kind of just touched a little bit on that topic for sure, but SFIA is a formal skills assessment framework, right? And I think it's incredibly important, Kip, and I'd love your perspective on how the change management or organizational development, the communications around a skills assessment does not come across as, hey, we're going to assess all 500 people in IT, and some of you will have jobs and some of you won't. Yeah. Right? That is not what this is. So why do you think that going to a formal assessment process is important?
Yeah, again, we've been touching about this a little bit the whole way. You want people thriving. You want people knowing that they fit and how they fit. I really like what I'm hearing you guys talk about in terms of passion for potential. What a way to coin this idea of just getting people excited in their passion lane with the things that they bring. There's so many opportunities, John, I think, on just career development. There's really not a very clear plan for people sometimes. It's almost like by default, I'm putting skills on my tool belt, right? I'm building it, but is there a clarity of what would be helpful to do next, and how's that developing to a future role? I mean, there's so many opportunities to develop our people and to have real clear kind of career planning that's going on that takes into account where they are in their current skills. And there's wonderful transparency of, what, here's where we are. Well, there we go. What a nice baseline. Let's start to work together on the next few years of where we want to go. And by the way, we're going to be very deliberate here. Your next assignment, outside of going to that training class, we've got a nice assignment for you to get some real life experience that's going to help you take to this level. So that's a very deliberate, very proactive approach to do this kind of work. And again, we don't want to lose people. We're going to lose people in organizations for many reasons, right? I'm not an HR person here that knows all the reasons that people leave. But what we don't want is to lose people because we didn't do a good job in what we're talking about today. Just helping them understand where they fit, helping them understand how they can grow, helping them understand we see opportunities for you to do even more here. And all needs to kind of fit together. I want everyone fired up. I always used to say this, John, you sure don't want 10 Kips on a team.
Right.
That you don't want 10 Kips on a team. Like you were just talking, I want to have like this Kip on a team with that skill set, someone opposite almost, and then this diversity of all the right skills, and then watch out with that team. Watch out with that organization. But what happens is it's almost, again, by default, by chance, we now end up with this group, and wait a second, we actually don't even have the right people here.
And like-minded people will steer towards each other. By human nature, the people who are good and have similar strengths will tend to want to collaborate with people who have similar strengths, where one of my mantras for my life, it takes money in the first place, is to take what you do and do it best and pay someone else to do the rest. Right? If I can do the two things I do best and you do the two things you do best, and they complement each other, that's what is a high functioning team. So
yeah, we were talking about this week in this training BRM growth mindset. The strong leaders realize, what, I don't know everything and I can develop new skills. If you have a fixed mindset, you're like all about me today. And no, we should all have a growth mindset. We should be understanding, but that doesn't mean I need to know everything right now. Let's work on this. And wow, thank you for being here, because I have no idea what you're doing. I'm glad you're here. What a great organization we have. So, but again, that's very deliberate. It's very much some confidence behind this as well, but it's good for everybody,
Sure, absolutely. I don't know if it's Sherm or Gartner or one of the major industry analysts that actually says lack of employee growth is the #1 reason that people. So if you're here and coming to work and you don't know why, other than to collect a paycheck, you're not really adding much value to the employer or to yourself.
Yeah, right? No one wants that. The employer doesn't want that. The employee, that's not a good situation. I like people fired up because of that purpose, because of the way I fit into what I'm doing, and I'm able to bring my best, whatever skill, whatever level that is, let's go.
I
That's
love what
gonna,
you just said, Kip. Maybe we coined outside of passion for potential. Let's get fired up instead of putting out fires.
there you
Right?
go.
Everybody's running around figuring out whatever the project deadline they got to meet tomorrow is. Let's get fired up about what we can do long term, short term,
That's right.
etc.
That's right.
So, with a couple of minutes remaining here, let's get to the little more fun part of the conversation. So, some fun stories from the front lines, and I'm sure everybody here has some managing relationships over the years. But from the day I got first heard about SFIA and decided to come on board here at Skills TX and be a SFIA evangelist, I saw this cartoon right here, which really takes everything we talk about and makes it make a lot of sense, right? So
Yeah.
you've got one job request for somebody looking for a digital forensics specialist, and there's only 8 competencies listed in the HRIS system that they use, which is one of the 5 largest enterprise HRIS systems today. I won't say who it is, but one of the 5 only has 8 options listed in their system. So they both go through, and what ends up happening, this guy who looks like Dog the Bounty Hunter shows up at the interview, and obviously not specialist in digital forensics, and knows nothing about cybersecurity. This happens a lot, unfortunately, in the world. And I'd love for you to share a couple stories with the 2 or 3 minutes we have left here of things you've seen that might give people a chuckle.
Yeah, I'm sure like there's a lot of people think about this. I go back to one that comes to my mind, professional GBS. So we did a lot of work in P&G with GBS, and that's what I do with Initia. And when I was back at P&G, I had a lot of passion to driving some more user experience. And like with Initia, we really talk about kind of the moments of truth with your service. It's not just a technology, it's a service. Let's do a better job end to end. So as we manage this end-to-end experience, I realized, you know what? We need to work on user research, which, by the way, is in SFIA, right? So I started to do some work on user research, and I quickly realized, we might need some help here. Well, because the service and solution managers would get into this little workshop facilitated session. It's like, no, you just click there. What do you think about this cool functionality? Oh, no, it's pretty simple. Go down here. It was almost like leading the witness in this little facilitated workshop with user research. I didn't know what ethnography was. I mean, we didn't know. We did our best. And maybe it wasn't as bad as I just said. But what we realized is we learned a little bit. We can do some user research, but hold on. We need to bring someone in. We brought people that did user research on Tide and Febreze. Let's help them do our user research on our capability. Whole different game. So again, we can limit ourselves back to, let's use the people we got. And I guess no, if you need these skills, then you got to talk about it. And let's get the right skills, get the right people in place. And when we brought that, it was a game changer. So that was just one example of get the right people in place. It makes a difference to drive that collaboration, convergence with whatever you're doing,
Absolutely. And if you have funny stories, I certainly would encourage you to follow Skills TX, Kip Fanta Group, the SFIA Foundation, the BRM Institute, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all over the place. We're going to be doing these webinars at least once a month, if not more often, with different thought leaders. Kip, I appreciate you taking some time today. I'm going to put one last slide up here for everybody with our contact information. You can learn more about the SFIA Foundation and SFIA 8 directly from them. It's a nonprofit organization, like I said. And if you're interested in taking a free SFIA assessment, feel free to contact me directly.
Great to be with you, John.
Absolutely, Kip. Have a wonderful day. Thank you very much and appreciate you.
Bring it. See you, everybody.